Getting into game development is one of those things that I've thought about for years, but kept putting off because, well, I've been afraid I won't be able to do it. I've got plenty of ideas and plenty of creative energy at times, but game development seems hard, especially for a solo developer. Up until this point, my only meaningful experience with game creation was a Sonic fan game I made in middle school using GameMaker's visual coding tools. I was pretty proud of it at the time, but it definitely wasn't good. The physics were barely functional, it was filled with bugs, and it barely had a single playable level. Nevertheless, the passion was definitely there. I'm now pushing 30, and it's really intimidating to jump back into game development feeling like I'm so late. The realization that it's going to take years to become proficient at this art form, and that I could potentially be 35 or older before I release a game anything close to my dream game, is very humbling. However, if nearly 30 years of living on this planet has taught me anything, it's that you should pursue things you're passionate about, regardless of how much time you feel like you've wasted not doing them. The best time to start is always today. So, where to begin? I had dabbled a bit in Unity a year or two ago, but failed to come up with anything resembling a project I wanted to continue. For some reason, even though I had ideas, nothing clicked, and my desire to make games sort of went dormant until just recently. I'm not sure what exactly reignited my interest in game development, but I know it was shortly after I finished playing Pseudo-Regalia. For those unfamiliar, Pseudo-Regalia is a 3D Metroidvania platformer with some really wild movement abilities. It has a slide jump, wall kick, backflip, and even advanced super hops you can do with really precise inputs. There's a lot to love about this game, but I think that it reminded me of what I love most in video games, a movement system that feels good. And after years of replaying Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3 ad infinitum, I'd finally found something new that I genuinely loved. Growing up, I was a huge fan of Sonic, and I think a big part of that was the fast-paced, momentum-based movement. Whether I was zipping through dreamy 2D landscapes in Sonic 3, or spamming spin dash and spin jumps while speedrunning Sonic Adventure, the sense of speed and momentum was something that greatly appealed to me. So, having a renewed interest in platforming games and game development, I started looking into game engines out of sheer curiosity, and I felt somewhat drawn toward Godot. Beyond the fact that it's completely free to use, I'd seen a lot of people saying that it was getting progressively better and was, in some ways, easier to use than Unity or Unreal. There was no harm in trying, so after a little research I went ahead and downloaded Godot and got started with a few tutorials. As I mentioned, I had done the same thing before with Unity, but I wasn't able to get a project off the ground. But almost immediately, using Godot felt good. I completed a couple tutorials and made my first rudimentary attempt at a platforming controller of my own. Needless to say, it was pretty bad, but a spark of potential was there, absolutely yearning to be discovered. So I tried again. I opened a new project, copied over some of the code from my previous controller, but started fresh with almost every movement ability. I honed the acceleration and began implementing features: coyote time, jump buffer, a ledge grab, a hockey stop type acceleration mechanic to prevent the movement from feeling slippery. Eventually, the basics were feeling solid and I could begin implementing more advanced mechanics: a wall jump, a ground slam, and a bounce. Before long, it was beginning to feel like a real game. Now, I know I said before long, but don't get it twisted. Over the past couple weeks, I've been investing pretty much all my free time and energy into game development. I don't have an exact figure, but I'd estimate I've spent well over 50 hours on the current version of this project, 10 of which were yesterday. I think that seeing a glimmer of real potential has been the fuel that I needed to get something off the ground. You're probably wondering what the development experience has been like so far. In a few words, game development is problem solving. A lot of the time you'll have an idea, come up with an idea of how to implement it, then it either won't work, or it will work, but it'll introduce problems elsewhere in the game. So you'll spend time fixing those problems, and with any luck, after some hours of trial and error, you'll have something close to the mechanic you envisioned. This might sound tedious, but for me, the process is actually pretty invigorating. Sure, there have been times where I've shouted at my computer because something still isn't working that clearly should be, only to find out that I had a greater than symbol where there should have been a less than, and I completely broke the player's movement. But there's something incredibly gratifying about discovering a bug, thinking, I know how to fix that, and then actually getting it right. There's certainly been less glamorous parts of this project, like manually aligning each frame of a sprite animation in GIMP because the padding varies and I don't know a more efficient way to fix it, or having an emotional breakdown because I still don't quite understand how the scene tree works, But overall, it's been so much fun to start bringing this project to life. As it stands, I've been working on the current iteration of my game for a little under 2 weeks, and I now have a fully functional player controller with advanced movement abilities, a complete level featuring a tile map, some basic lighting, and a parallax background, a stage timer that begins with a 3-second countdown and stops at the end of the level, and music and sound effects which I created myself in FL Studio. Not bad for a beginner, right? The one thing that I didn't create myself, and definitely couldn't at this point in time, are the lovely pixel assets that I got from itch.io, which I will be linking in the description of this video. Please take some time to check out these artists and support their amazing work. I know I've only just begun on this project, but I'm already so excited to see where it goes. While a lot of specifics of this game are still up in the air, I know that I want it to be heavily focused on fast-paced platforming that feels fun and satisfying to execute. I also think that speed challenges will be incorporated into the progression in some way. Now, if this project seems interesting to you and you'd like to follow my development journey, feel free to press the subscribe button, as I'll be posting regular updates. I don't have a Steam page set up just yet, but with any luck that'll be up and running for the next video. Until then, thanks so much for checking out my progress so far, and best of luck to you all in your own development journeys. See you next time.